Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our second session for 45 on Friday, an update for our stakeholders. I'm Cheryl Mugel. I'm with Mopdog Creative Plus Strategy, and I have the honor to support Cobb Community Foundation with their communications. I will be the moderator for today, and just a few housekeeping I guess tidbits. Many of you have already been on Zoom calls before, but just as a reminder, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little chat box, and so you can chat me questions as the session is occurring, and then also you'll be able to ask questions as the presenters today are going to be presenting their amazing topics and their insights. And at the end of the session, you'll receive a poll to ask your opinion on how it all went, and you're getting your feedback on future topics. So with that being said, I am going to turn it over to Sherry Martin, who is the President and CEO of Cobb Community Foundation. Hey, Sherry, how are you doing today?
I am so great. Thank you, Cheryl. And for everyone on this call, please know that Cheryl is just an amazing woman and helps us do everything we already do a little bit better. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So welcome to 45 on Friday. We are glad that you are here with us today, where you're going to hear about what's going on in our community, how Cobb's nonprofits, our generous corporate and individual donors, and even our Cobb County government are all making an impact. You'll also hear about the roles that we play to help our community to be the best it can be. Barbara Garner's our donor services manager, and she's going to provide some insights on our role as charitable fund manager. She's going to share a few stories about what some of our fund holders and donors are doing to make a difference during the COVID-19 pandemic. And then toward the end of our time together, you'll hear about the generosity that is occurring both inside and outside Cobb County that is allowing us to fulfill our role as a grant maker in a very, very big way right now. But first, we're going to start by sharing about how our role as a community catalyst is making a difference for those Cobb Countyans who are in search of one of our most basic needs, food. So many of you may know that in mid-April, Mike Boyce reached out and asked if I would be willing to make a presentation to the Cobb Board of Commissioners at the end of April to present information about the need for food in Cobb County. As many of you know, we have over 100,000 people who have lost their job in the past 6 weeks. And with that, over half of those individuals are in jobs that are very low paying jobs. They are in the food services industry or hospitality industry. In fact, the majority are in the kinds of jobs that may already have them living on the edge. And if you're already on the edge, you are one paycheck away in many cases from not having immediate access to food, housing, and some of the other resources that so many of us, including myself, take for granted. So we made that presentation. And we did that with support of a number of nonprofits as well as United Way and the Cobb Collaborative. We were hoping for a vote on April 28th, but the Board of Commissioners decided to delay while they could address some issues around equity and how do we make sure that the allocation among the various nonprofits is fair and goes out to nonprofits throughout the county as opposed into one or two different areas. Well, I'm very, very happy to tell you that they have created a process that I personally endorse wholeheartedly that will allow all of the nonprofits in Cobb County to be able to do what they do best, or at least those in the food service world. So there is now a grant application open. In fact, for the nonprofits that are on the call, let me read to you that URL. It is https:// I think that's a / www.surveymonkey.com. And instead of my continuing to read this, Cheryl, I'm just going to let you put that in the chat. So you can apply now. Nonprofits who provide food or meals in Cobb County can apply now. That is open for applications until 4 o'clock next Wednesday. and all the rules around how to apply and what is covered are at the site that Cheryl's going to be posting. For those of you on the call who are not with a nonprofit, let me just tell you, this is absolutely huge. Cash flow has been one of the primary concerns of nonprofits, not just our community, but in others. And what this grant is going to allow nonprofits to do is submit receipts going back to April 1st. And so when the grant is awarded, they'll be able to be reimbursed for their expenditures that have been made from April 1st forward. They will then submit receipts along the way, all the way through September 30th. And I just learned today, this was news to me, and I was so happy to hear it, that there is a possibility that if all of those funds are used up and it's clear that there's still a need, that there might be additional funds released. We'll see. Please keep your fingers crossed. That's a very, very big deal. Now, I would like to introduce you to someone who has been right in the middle of working with all of the various nonprofit food service providers. I'd like to introduce Howard Kepke. Howard is with Noonday Association of Churches, and I can tell you that I am watching leadership in action that is absolutely incredible and inspiring. And Howard has spent time on disaster relief in various different areas, and his skills and talents are serving our community well. So with that, Howard, would love to hear how things have been going in the nonprofit food arena.
Well, thank you, Sherry. You're very kind with your words, and what we're doing is amazing, but it wouldn't be possible without so many just incredible partners. Some of you I'm looking at on the phone right now, are on the Zoom call right now, and it's just been amazing. So I work with Noonday Association of Churches, a network of approximately 130 churches across from Atlanta north. And our big thing is getting, trying to be an asset, a blessing, and a partner, helping churches fulfill what God's called them to do, but then getting them to work together on issues in their communities together. And so we started this effort 2 years ago. About a year ago, we really focused in on our South Cobb communities, where we have a lot of poverty, a lot of immigrants, a lot of everything. And so about a year ago, and some of you on this call are a part of this group, we brought together faith-based leaders, nonprofit leaders, government leaders, school leaders, to really begin building relationships with each other, but then getting them to, again, tackle issues in the community. We're already working on a couple different fronts, developing community resource centers, partnerships with schools, addressing housing, and so forth. So when this crisis hit is when our commission tapped Sherry on the shoulder and to put this Cobb crisis response team together. And then I was tasked with the privilege of just helping facilitate nonprofit food distribution efforts all over the county. And let me just tell you, it's been amazing. I mean, fortunately, we started a year ago building all these networks and relationships because we were up and running with operations happening in our communities within 3 days. And 2 weeks later, we had other counties calling and going, we're just trying to figure out what to even begin doing. And you guys had operations going in 2 or 3 days. Help us out. So it's been great to help other counties in addition to Cobb. We got a great group of nonprofits. I mean, some of Must Ministries is on this call. Family Life Restoration Center, Sweetwater, Reflections of Trinity. A wing of our Noonday Association of Churches is Storehouse Ministries, which equips 24 churches to have pantries in their communities, plus helping other ministries and nonprofits. And then we do a Zoom call every Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. to keep the lines of communication open. We have 43 different partners who are working together and helping each other. And while we have, Must and others that have always been helping other ministries, it has just been mind-blowing to see the level of collaboration and cooperation and communication and helping each other. Must Ministries recently got in a truck full of chicken, and they shared that with some other partners. We did just recently, in fact, we just started last week, Cobb Senior Services was running into trouble meeting the food security needs of their seniors. So Must Ministries and Storehouse went halves on the deal, and now we've got a big drive-through distribution happening there every Thursday. And it's just been amazing to see these things. The Life Foundation that works with 75 troubled college students. I say troubled, they're having financial issues. Some of them are homeless and so forth. It's a support system for students at KSU. And so they called up and we were quickly able to connect them with food to keep their students going. One of the things that's been really neat is at the very beginning of this, and let me just brag on Sherry this time and her team at Cobb Community Foundation, because so much of what we're doing in the streets, if you will, would not have been possible without all of their work behind the scenes, helping orchestrate and get everything going. And one of the things that we did real early on was we set up a website called the cobbcommunityconnection.org. I hope most of you know about that. If you don't, write it down and check it out. cobbcommunityconnection.org. And what that website did was, as we were having conversations with our South Cobb group pre-crisis, you know, we would talk about how we brought, you know, there's 40, 50, 60 different people there each month. And half of those people don't know the other half of the people and didn't know all the different services and nonprofits and resources that are available across our county. And one of the things we talked about in that setting was how the average family sitting out there has probably no idea of 98% of the resources that are available to help their family. So this website has been huge. We've been giving out cards to the tune of 35,000 cards, and I know we've got more on order that we're, with every food distribution that's happening. These families are getting a card. It's English on one side, Spanish on the other, where they can go and type in food, financial assistance, healthcare, whatever the topic is, click map view and pins populate all over the map, showing them where these resources are at. And that same website has also been huge in this food distribution effort, because we were able to use that with the pins to see where we had some overlaps, where we needed to spread things out a little bit, where we were having a duplication of efforts. We were also able to identify gaps where no food was getting into. And so we've actually started, and Must and Storehouse partnered on a couple of these. We've also got Sweetwater, Reflections of Trinity, and there's another one, I'm drawing a blank, I apologize, that have started 5 new sites just in the last week. And what we've realized is that in a lot of our lower income communities, many times you're dealing with immigrants who may or may not be documented, and many of them don't want to drive across town to where they have to drive through distribution points. So what we've gone in, identified those communities and gone in and started mobile, just unload a truck and start giving out the food. And we're doing that now, for instance, at the Village. Sherry actually was the one who identified 2 of these. The Village Mobile Home Park, 650 unit in South Cobb. The Waverly is another 350 unit mobile home park. And we also started in the Mableton Manor last week, which was, again, large number of minorities, but very large number of immigrants. And we're not checking to see if they're documented or not. That's not on our radar. We're just here to love and help people. And I'll tell you, one of the heartbreaking things for me, I don't know if we're not connected on social media, I encourage you to do that and just see all the things that are happening. And we brag on all of our partners all the time. But one of the things I was sharing with a group recently was, it's just heartbreaking to me. And I could tell you story after story after story, being on the streets, dealing with, helping these families. But as they come through the line, there's so many of these families who it's hard for them to look you in the eye because they're embarrassed. And we just keep over communicating. There's no judgment here. There's just love. We're all in this together. We're here to help you. But for many of these folks, this is the first time in their lives they have ever had to ask for help. It's the first time in their lives they've ever had to wait in line for an hour or more to get food. At one of our distribution sites, we have 700 families coming through there every Saturday, and they start lining up at 3 a.m. to make sure that they can get some food for their kids. And I'll just tell you, it is heartbreaking out on the streets right now. But again, the collaboration piece, I mean, none of our ministries, and Must, Ike is a great friend of mine, and they do incredible work. But let me just tell you, man, the needs are so great across our county right now. If we didn't have this level of collaboration and all these different ministries and nonprofits helping each other and sharing resources, and when one's low, somebody else helps them out. We were laughing about, we had a surplus, a huge excess of carrots last week. And so that just started going out across to all of our different partners. And again, I mentioned the truckload of chicken that Must was very generous in sharing with some of our partners. We're also Must and Center for Family Resources. They're letting us borrow trucks to make sure things are getting where they need to go. And I'm just loving seeing this, because this is what we've been working on for 2 years, both churches and nonprofits. And to see it really coming together like this, I think it's really going to help our county for years to come after this crisis is over with. Some of the big needs that we have right now is we're trying to find additional freezer and refrigeration space. We're tapping into some options to be able to buy large bulk purchases of food, but we need storage space for that. So Sherry and I have been working together a lot, trying to find additional warehouse and refrigeration and freezer space. So you can add that to your list and help spread the word. And who knows somebody 7 degrees of separation, what we might be able to locate. But I think that's pretty well it. And again, we're storehouse, reflections. I mean, I could just go down. I got a list here of about 40 something of our partners that are involved in the food distribution thing. And we wouldn't be doing it in our communities and in our county what we're doing if it weren't for everybody pitching in. And I just, again, have to brag on Cobb Community Foundation for being the glue, helping hold it all together and doing all the behind the scenes work that makes our efforts possible. So
thank you so much. And Howard, thank you for all that you do. This man literally spends every day driving from church to church, nonprofit organization to nonprofit organization, to connect with the people there who are actually providing the services, to connect with those who are receiving services. And every single person that he talks to, he's going to ask, how can I help you?
Mm-hmm.
Can I help you? And we're seeing that with every single nonprofit that is out there working together. It is absolutely amazing and incredible to watch. And I think, frankly, to the extent that we haven't seen this level of coordination and collaboration before, it's just that we weren't coming together and talking, not for any reason at all. It's just now we have some reasons to come together and make sure that we're all focused on what we're trying to accomplish. And it's not about who's doing it,
mm-hmm.
about it getting done. And I can't thank the folks who are out there enough for taking that approach.
Well, and Sherry, if I could interject for a second too, I mean, while this session's been going on, I mean, amazing shout outs to people. I just wanted to say a few since you all can't see them. There was a shout out to Phil Stroud and Tip Top for the truckload of chicken.
Mm-hmm.
And Renee McCormick said, freezer space available at Howard? No. Thank you. Thank you from Ike. Thank you, Ike, for that shout out too for Philip and Tip Top. So there's a lot of good that I see people are talking about. So there was a quick question also on the side that was asked by a citizen viewer, and it was more of an overall question. Can a nonprofit, do you know if a nonprofit that serves food insecure clients in Cobb County, but they're headquartered in like another county, like for example, DeKalb County, do you know if they could apply for this grant, or who should they contact for that information, Sherry?
So that information is actually going to be on the website. And Cheryl, thanks for providing the URL for that, where you actually can go to apply itself. But I can tell you the organization does have to have a Cobb County office, not just provide services in Cobb, and it has to primarily serve Cobb County residents. So unfortunately that does limit it a little bit. But we are so appreciative of everything that everyone does to help Cobb County and the rest of our world. We all need as much help as we can get right now. Well, let me shift gears and then send things over to Barbara Garner. As I said, Barbara is our donor services manager, and she spends every day talking to our fund holders and other folks who are looking to get advice as to how they can help make a difference here. And she has some very fun stories. So I'm going to turn it over to her.
Thank you, Sherry. And it's so good to see so many of your faces. I miss everybody. I hate it that this is how we're having to do it, but regardless, it's good to see your faces. And thank you so much for your time this afternoon. This is such an amazing group of dedicated nonprofit partners who have just worked tirelessly during this time, as well as incredibly generous donors and fund holders who have given not only their time, but their resources to help those in need. So thank you so much to each and every one of you. Now, as Sherry said earlier, one of our 3 hats is, well, there's probably more than 3, but one of them is charitable fund manager. And I have a few stories of generosity in action that I would love to share with you. Let me see if I am able to share this screen here. I want to digitally introduce you to Walt and Christy Helms. This is Walt and Christy, and they are CCF fund holders who are just super engaged in our community. They created a giving fund with us last year, and they had really specific causes that they wanted to address with their charitable dollars. Then COVID-19 happened. So Walt was actually on our first 45 on Friday a few weeks ago, and he was moved when he heard Sherry say, hey, if you have a giving fund, what are you waiting for? This is the time to give. Funds are desperately needed right now. So Walt and Christy spent some time over the next day or so, and they put together a really comprehensive list of the COVID issues that they wanted to address, like hunger, shelter, and mental health. And they especially wanted to help children and families. So they asked us for some guidance in identifying organizations who were making impacts in these areas. And they wondered who should they distribute, what should they distribute now, and what should they possibly hold for later. This was a really timely question because it was right in the midst of that 1 million pending ask for the county. So we suggested that they kind of hit pause and wait until the final decision was made. So after the county grant was passed, we advised them to wait until the end of September because as you know, that's when the county grant expires and funds may be needed and they may not. So we'll just kind of reevaluate at that time. So they talked it over with their sons and they made a decision to grant a large percentage of their fund value to 4 state and local nonprofits who are serving. So it's just huge how intentional and impactful Walt and Christy have been, and to see their generosity amplified by being so strategic with their charitable giving. Okay, so let me take their picture down. Let's see, how do I do?
Barbara, you're good. I already took it down for you. Just so you keep
Okay,
going, girl.
No wonder. I don't know about you guys, but I have learned a lot about Zoom, but apparently not enough. So the Helms are just one of numerous stories of generosity. CCF manages over 130 charitable funds for individuals, families, companies, and nonprofits. We have had so many of those fund holders pick up the phone, especially during this time, and say, where are my charitable dollars needed the most? We also have a few of our donors who ask us to reach out to them. Hey, just know that I am somebody you can pick up the phone if you have emergency community needs. And a lot of them, you will never know their names because their preference is to give anonymously. So that's an amazing gift. We also partner with local civic organizations such as several different Kiwanis and Rotary clubs. Like the Rotary Club of East Cobb, who recognize that paying dues right now during the COVID crisis is probably going to be difficult for some of their membership right now. So they made those dues optional. They also let their members know that if they were able to pay their dues, that they would put those funds and distribute them to a grant to Cobb County YMCA, and they would match those. So thanks to that amazing idea, the YMCA is receiving, and probably has already received, $15,000 in much needed grant funding. So that's amazing. We love to see that ability to put community and members first, especially during this difficult time. As many of you have heard about, we have this Cobb COVID-19 Community Response Fund. We have received so many contributions. The generosity has just been through the roof. And a few of those contributions have been for as little as $10. And this is actually kind of cool because it tells us that although some folks can't give a whole lot, they're giving what they can. And that is just so heartwarming. We also have had many repeat contributions that align with pay schedules. So again, we're seeing that folks are giving what they can, when they can, because they have that big desire to help. And what a difference they're making. Sherry's going to talk more about those grants in a moment, but all of those dollars either have or will be going back to Cobb nonprofits who are serving those most affected by the COVID crisis. So another fund that you probably heard a little bit about, and several of you have actually received meals from, is Operation Meal Plan. And that was the brainchild of Mitch Roden. It was created by the Cobb Chamber of Commerce in partnership with both CCF and Center for Family Resources. And the purpose was a dual purpose: to help keep local restaurants open during this critical time, and also to assist Cobb nonprofits who are helping to feed those in need with prepared meals. So that was a little bit different. Prepared meals that were actually delivered at or below cost. To date, we have received over $90,000 in funding, and 14,000 meals will have been delivered by the end of this month, which is actually when the program is scheduled to not end but pause. The decision was made to pause now because the chamber and all of those involved really felt like it was super important to reserve some funds, because everybody's saying we might have a resurgence in the fall when school starts back. So we just want to be prepared to hit the ground running just in case. The fact that this fund was created and operational at the very onset of COVID really helped sustain many nonprofits through a time when their funds were low and government funding had not yet been secured. So we are just so honored to partner with the Chamber, CFR, all of you nonprofits, and so many more, as well as the restaurants who were able to make this happen. So let me take a breath, because like so many of you, we have been really busy. The last initiative that I really wanted to make sure and give a shout out to, and I mentioned this briefly at our last 45 on Friday, but it's super, super exciting, and we're really excited to announce it. It's the Employee Assistance Funds. We call them EAFs for short. One of our existing fund holders, Liberty Furniture, came to us out of concern for their employees who have been affected by loss of income due to COVID or many other significant hardships that might have happened, car accident, medical issues, fire, all of those types of things. So in response, we have partnered with Liberty and Center for Family Resources to launch our very first EAF. I'm super excited about it, and we are actually the very first community foundation in Georgia who is offering EAFs. These funds allow businesses and other contributors the ability to set aside tax-deductible contributions for employees who, again, are experiencing those significant hardships like COVID. We know that the local business community is concerned for their employees, and you guys are looking for ways to support your employees during this time. So EAFs offer an easy, cost-effective way to do just that. So I am thrilled that we have had the honor of partnering with such generous businesses, individuals, families, and civic organizations, and then to see those relationships and connections translate into meaningful, impactful support for charities doing work that lifts up those in need and that does nothing but lift up our community. So good stuff. And I was thinking about this, and part of our mission statement is inspiring charitable giving. We try to do that every day. But what I want you to know is that you guys inspire us every day to keep doing what we do, and together we're seeing a huge difference. So thank you so very much. So Cheryl, were there questions for me?
Well, during your this point in the discussion, Barbara, there were several questions that came in. So I'm just going to throw it up for you and Sherry. Feel free to jump in to answer some of these questions. So one question came in, what is the minimum amount needed to start a giving fund?
That is a great question. We recommend that if you would like to start a giving fund, that you do so with at least $5,000. And that's if the intent is to get that fund to about the $20,000 mark within a few years.
Okay. Excellent. This one is more in regards to the funding that's available. And Sherry, maybe you would know the answer to this question or be able to help direct. As a Cobb County school social worker, is interested in hearing more about how mental health services for children may be directed with the funds mentioned. Any thoughts on
I am going to talk about that in just a minute. So thank you very much for that. I've got
okay, so we can hold that. I'm going to hold that question because we're going to circle back to that.
yes.
Okay, so there's another question that came in about Operation Meal Plan. Can you just highlight some of the list of nonprofits who've benefited from Operation Meal Plan?
Happy to. And I saw several of them represented today. So I hope I don't forget anybody, and I probably will. So there was CCYA, Live Safe, Must Ministries, the Extension, the Zone, YMCA, Devereaux, Cobb Senior Services, Tommy Nova Center, and more, I'm sure, but that's just a partial listing.
Okay, and then the follow-up question from that was the restaurants who were involved. I mean, just some high level of that too.
Absolutely, and thank you for asking, because that's something that might get lost in all of that. I mean, a lot of help has been given, and it's certainly been helpful to the restaurants, but they weren't making money. That was really just to keep their employees employed, which is super. So some of those restaurants were Murph's Pie, Carrabba's, Otter's Chicken, Tropical Smoothie, Zaxby's, Your Pie, Christo's, Jason's Deli, Piastra, Subway, Bojangles. That's
Elizabeth's Delectables.
Oh, and there were some caterers too.
Yes.
We have some caterers. Elizabeth's Edibles and Parsley's. Those are so please frequent those restaurants, because they have been a huge part of Operation Meal Plan.
And we had 2 restaurants who actually told us that if it weren't for Operation Meal Plan, they would have closed. And additional restaurants told us that they had several employees they were able to continue to employ because of Operation Meal Plan. So this was a win-win for everyone.
It was.
Excellent. Another question came in. I do have a giving fund, but it's not with you all. Okay.
Shame!
That's awesome. But could I still consult with you about local nonprofits?
Absolutely. We're happy to consult with anyone about nonprofits and share what we know. But what you may not know is your giving fund can be transferred from another place, Fidelity or Schwab or many of the other ones, and we can just incorporate that into a fund at Cobb Community Foundation. We're happy to talk with you about that.
Okay, excellent. I think that's really it. That's for this section. And I know there's a few others that I know that will be addressed, Sherry, with your follow-up.
Yes.
So I'm going to turn it back to you.
Okay, thank you. I get to talk about our third hat. So we've got Community Catalyst, charitable fund manager, and our last one is grant maker. And I have to tell you, this is the one that's the most fun because this is where we get to award grants in the community. Many of the folks on this call, Must Ministries, Extension, Live Safe, a whole bunch of you have received community impact grants from us. And our plan this year, and Howard alluded to the South Cobb initiative earlier, was to really focus all of our community grant making. This is where we have pools of resources that have been contributed for us to turn around and grant out. Our plan was to focus on what we call the red zones. You may recall we had a study done last year where it identified that key areas in Cobb County who were in specific high levels of need and what those needs were. And then it also showed where our nonprofits were. And one of the things that we noticed was that while we have a number of nonprofits who service all of those areas, and there were some areas where we actually needed a physical presence. So our plan was we were going to roll out a grant program that would support those nonprofits who had a physical presence there, and that working together, they would provide wraparound services to the individuals in greatest need. Not asking anybody to set up a whole new office, but basically just have like one person who was there from this organization, another person from this organization, so they could work together. So we were in the preliminary stages of pushing that through and putting an infrastructure in place for that. And then, as Barbara said, COVID-19 hit and everything got turned upside down. So at that point, our entire grant making focus shifted to trying to get through the impacts of the pandemic. And I have to tell you, the grant awards that we have received have just blown us away. So one of my favorite stories is Lockheed. So everyone on this call is familiar with Lockheed, and Barbara mentioned Operation Meal Plan. So Lockheed called us and had heard about how we were trying to keep our fingers on the pulse of the needs in the community, as well as the nonprofits in the community. And they called and said that they were awarding us $25,000 for our COVID-19 fund. And for all of you on the call, we don't collect any fees at all from that fund. 100% of what comes in goes right back out. And so Lockheed wanted to contribute $25,000, have us to deploy those dollars as we thought appropriate. Well, just a few days after that call, and we were already psyched at that contribution, but just a few days after that call, we started realizing that Operation Meal Plan was starting to run low on funds. So I reached out to Lockheed and said, hey, could we use 5,000 of the 25 for Operation Meal Plan and keep 20 for COVID-19? I got a call that afternoon. I sent that in an email, and I got a call that afternoon, and they said, no, we don't want you to diminish what's going into the COVID-19 fund, but we're going to give you another 25,000 for Operation Meal Plan. So those obviously are the kinds of calls that just make your day. I will tell you, I was in tears. It was just phenomenal. So we've got Lockheed, United Way of Greater Atlanta, and Community Foundation for Greater Atlanta, who created the Greater Atlanta COVID-19 Response Fund. They awarded us $50,000 again for our COVID fund because they knew that we have a real strong handle of the organizations on the ground. Nicole Lawson, who is head of the Northwest region for United Way, she took $30,000 of discretionary funding that she had and added it to the fund, and we're granting that out together. And then the Wilbur and Hilda Glenn Family Foundation in downtown Atlanta awarded us $30,000 as well. That's just the beginning of some of the large grants that we've received, but we are just overwhelmed by the generosity of folks. And as it relates to how we're granting the dollars, our initial focus was strictly on food and financial assistance. And so we awarded grants to those organizations that were providing both food and financial assistance. With the county's $1 million, we're going to hold on our food grant making right now and focus energies on other specific areas. The focus on financial assistance will continue, but we are also going to be focusing on, Anna Murphy, mental health, as well as issues related to mental health, such as we know that there is an increase in domestic violence. We know that those who are dealing with addiction are under special stressors right now and need additional support. We know that there is more violence against children that is occurring. So this is coming to the extent that we aren't seeing, let me back up and say, those who are reporting these issues are saying that they're seeing a doubling of issues of domestic violence and similar. So we know that this is a major issue, and we need to do what we can to support those who are dealing with those who have been victimized by issues such as that. So that is coming. In terms of how we are going through the grant process, we are not formally asking for applications. Frankly, you all have enough that is on your mind right now. As nonprofits, there's enough going on in your worlds. We're trying to be very, keep our ears to the ground on what you're doing. We're having numerous calls that are with groups of nonprofit representatives, as well as reaching out, just as some of you know, that we're reaching out to you just to find out what's going on. If we haven't had that opportunity and you want us to know what's going on, please send an email to Catherine Gankowski. Most of you know her as Kat. She is our nonprofit liaison, and her email address is catherine@cobbfoundation.org, Catherine with a C. And just give us an update. Don't send us a proposal, just send a 2 to 3 paragraph email telling us what's going on. We want it to be easy for you to receive funding, and therefore we want to make it easy for you to give us the information that we need for that. So we could not be happier about the response that we've received to the COVID-19 fund. And we are so thankful for the nonprofits that are doing everything that they're doing in the community. Cobb County would not be what it is without all of you. And that includes the small organizations and the large organizations. You all truly are the heart of Cobb. So thank you for doing what you're doing. Cheryl, do we have any questions?
Well, excellent. Well, we are actually nearing our end of our time. We have 3 minutes left. So I do have a few questions that have come in. And I just, as I chatted, if you received the chat, if you do have further questions, feel free to place that in chat, and we will do a summary after this to make sure those questions are answered. So one of the questions that came in is if you have any further information about the plan or procedure to fund school lunches to Title I schools during for kids during summer vacation. Do you have any further information regarding that, Sherry?
Oh, Howard, do you want to answer that question?
Yes, is Dana Murphy happen to be on here anywhere? I can't see everybody. Well, the 8 Title I schools, the last I've heard is that they, and maybe Kay Cagle could answer this as well. Last I heard, they were going through the end of the school year, which is next week, I believe. And then Kay, have you heard, are they continuing that after through June?
So Bethany Miller's actually on the line, and she said she's a rep for Cobb County School District. So it is June 22nd. Thank you, Bethany.
That's great. I do know that Marietta City Schools is going to be partnering as well with MUST and others to provide lunches at various locations throughout the rest of the summer. But I will tell you, I think everybody is trying to get their arms around that right now. We know that that is just about to happen, and we will be posting the locations and information about that on the Cobb Connection, and you'll also be able to find it on Marietta City Schools website and Cobb Schools website as well.
Well, excellent. And since we have 1 minute left, I just wanted to, one other question. For other nonprofits like Nana Grants, you'll be able to they're addressing a lagging crisis of childcare funding. Is now the time to reach out to funders who are focused on this area, do you believe, on areas other than current emergency services? So, Sherry, do you have thoughts on that?
That's a great question. I don't think there is ever a bad time to reach out to funders unless you know that the funder you're reaching out to is having a particularly difficult time at the moment. I think it's very easy for all of us to focus so much on the needs that are right in front of us and on the TV screen and on the news every day, that sometimes we don't think as much about some of the other needs that are out there. So absolutely, please reach out to your funders, send us an update. I will tell you, our funds are limited, but to the extent that they keep coming in, we're going to keep putting them right back out. So with all that, I just want to say thank you so much to all of you for taking 45 minutes at the end of your week to hear a little bit about what's going on in the community. As Cheryl mentioned, you're going to receive a survey right after this, and we would love for you to give us your thoughts on how we can make this 45 minutes, or you may tell us only do 30, but how can we make this as useful and helpful and as interesting to you as possible? So thanks so much. Please go enjoy this gorgeous day. Stay safe and be well. And thank you for what you do for our community.
Is Howard where he is? Is Howard at the virtual background, or is he really there?
No.
That's my wishful thinking.
That's actually,
I couldn't resist. I'm sorry.
Okay, with that, we are saying goodbye.